Hello friends, what you see here is a nutrition health education session in progress. The community worker is talking to mothers about infant feeding practices. Nutrition and health education is a key focus area. Why? Why do we need to emphasize on nutrition and health education? You would probably know the answer. Malnutrition is a common problem affecting large population groups in our country. It is estimated that about 250 million people, most of them children and mothers, suffer from varying degree of malnutrition. What contributes to malnutrition? Poverty, ignorance, infection, poor infant feeding practices, faulty eating habits are factors contributing to malnutrition. What can be done to combat malnutrition? Our government has initiated short-term and long-term measures to combat malnutrition. You might recall reading about one short-term measure, that is providing supplementary feeding to vulnerable sections like mothers and children. Nutrition and health education, on the other hand, is a long-term measure to combat malnutrition. Providing basic nutrition and health knowledge education to community groups can go a long way to combat malnutrition. The focus of nutrition and health education is on people and action. The aim of nutrition and health education is to persuade people to adopt, sustain desirable and improved nutrition and health practices and to help them take decisions individually or collectively to improve their nutrition and health status and environment. Nutrition and health education has become an important part of the school curriculums and the nutrition programs. Nutrition and health education is also important in the context of the problems of overnutrition. What are the components of nutrition and health education? What is its significance? We need to know a lot more on these aspects. And talking to us is Ms. Deepti Gulati.
Good health, we all know, is a prerequisite for human productivity, as well as economic and technological development of any country. It is especially so in a country like India, which has a labor-intensive economy rather than the capitalistic economy. But as you all know, the good health is not by virtue of birth or a place that you are staying in, but it is an end product of the good healthy habits that we develop over the years. Malnutrition is one of the biggest national problems that we have in our country, which affects mostly pregnant women, nursing mothers, and small children. And when this malnutrition exists in such vulnerable groups, when the children grow up, they become adults who have not attained their potentiality to be healthy, robust citizens. With the result, we have a little less productive manpower than what we would naturally have otherwise. Nutrition education is a very important aspect of health and nutrition education that we would like you to develop in your training program, because nutrition and health education plays a very important role in community nutrition. It is the primary method by which we can tackle all the community-related problems which arise from poor hygiene, poor sanitation, faulty food habits, and so on. Then what exactly is nutrition and health education? Is it merely giving information, imparting knowledge? Certainly no. It is a way by which we can translate the information that we have learned through our books, through our counselors, through other media, and translate it into practices which are healthy, which we can adopt in our day-to-day life, bring about a change in our attitudes, in our beliefs, and make it an integral part of our personality, so that we can really lead a healthy, happy life. What are the causes which lead to a poor nutrition and health status of an individual? Do you think it's just poverty alone? No. Poverty is just one aspect, but it is basically the ignorance about what foods help us to have a good health status, help us to fight infections, help us to be more growth oriented. And these are the problems which would have to be tackled through nutrition and health education. But nutrition and health education is not primarily the responsibility of one single discipline, that is either a nutrition educator or a health educator. It comes within the purview of all of us who are working in the community as either social scientists or community development workers. And whom do we talk to? Is it only the problem which exists with the poorer sections of the society? Is it only with those who are least deprived socio and economically? No. Health and nutritional malpractices or the poor habits that we have are rampant in the society, in our communities, at all levels, irrespective of their socioeconomic status, because we as individuals are governed by a number of fads, fallacies, which we acquire through our older people, older family members, and which become a part of our personality, and we are not very willing to change. You would find that there is a lot of resistance to adopt new healthy practices. Have you ever thought why? You know, if you have a headache, if you take an aspirin or any other tablet, the headache goes away and there is an instant relief. But it is not so by adopting a nutrition and health practices, because the results are not immediately visible. So there is a lot of disillusionment in people that, well, even if we eat green leafy vegetables or even if we take a glass of milk, how does it improve? Impact of good healthy habits is not immediate, it is long term. And it shows its good impact only when the habits are sustained over a period of time. So what we say is that nutrition and health education has to be pursued over a long period of time, because first we have to impart knowledge, give information, and then enable the people to adopt these practices, create an environment from which they can draw the information and draw the resources to improve their well-being. Now, in this context, nutrition and health education does not remain one static thing. It basically involves 3 steps. First, imparting knowledge. Second, bringing about a change in the attitudes of people. And third, only when the attitudes are changed, it would help them to adopt it as a practice. As far as knowledge is concerned, it is the easiest to provide, because you can have any number of materials that you can use to give information. You can give information through multimedia, like what we are doing right away, use television, use radios. We can also have printed materials through which we can give nutrition and health education for the people who can read. We can have posters, we can have charts, we can have films. But giving knowledge is the first step, which is the easiest to handle. The second and a very important aspect of nutrition and health education is to bring about a change in the attitudes of people who would translate this knowledge into the habits. This is extremely difficult. Why? Because people resist any change. People do not want to change and they see no need to change. So you as a community nutrition worker or community health worker become an agent of social change who motivate them and give them an insight, give them other people's experiences, or give them experiences of other communities who over a period of time have changed their health and nutrition profile. So when we talk of the attitudinal changes that we have to bring in a community, the attitudinal changes can be brought into a community Once they have the knowledge, we give them experiences. We give them an experiential uh, training which we can go no, which we can give them through a lot of case studies, and these case studies which you can collect from within the community. You would find that in a particular community, some households which would be very clean, having healthy habits of taking right kind of food, and generally you would see that the children or adults in those households do not fall sick so often. Those are the families that you could pick up as cases to demonstrate to the others that if they would follow the same kind of health practices, same kind of hygiene and environment cleanliness around them, probably they would also be more healthy and robust. Then there can be another method that you can use is a method of group discussion. If you have a group discussion between the people you want to change and those who have already been changed because of your efforts, you would find an interchange of ideas, exchange of ideas helps to motivate people because they feel that it is from among them that someone has taken an initiative into having a healthy habit or developing a healthy practice which has benefited them. So others who have not yet started accepting your advice till now may be motivated because they are seeing an example before them who has changed their course of life, changed their environment, and brought about more health into their family. And if they feel that so and so is one amongst us, they would be more prompted to take up this new idea that you are trying to propagate. It's only when there is a change in the attitude that a change in the practice can follow. But it is very important for you that you have to keep on pursuing such people so that when they are at the threshold of conversion into healthy practices, they do not backtrack. So it is very important that they continue to have these practices. Now, when you are as a nutrition and health educator, and we go back to the first step of imparting nutrition and health education, the first step is that we have to identify why do we need to give nutrition and health education. Because no one is going to accept you as a person who just comes and gives them information, because why would they need this information? How this information is going to change their course of life? How this information is going to be important to them? So you have to identify the needs of the community related to health and nutrition. Only once you have identified the community needs and you have prioritized the needs that have to be addressed to, only then your first step of community diagnosis for nutrition and health education would be over. Then the second aspect of nutrition and health education would be to identify what information needs to be imparted and how much of information needs to be imparted. If we go into using jargons, big words, or abstract ideas, people don't understand, because for them what is important is the concrete information that they can actually use into their day-to-day practice. Then after we have decided what information to talk to, then we go into the third aspect, that who will give this information. You as a nutrition and health educator are certainly there to give this information, but you would have felt at times that there is a need to take other people along with you, be they be influentials in the community whom you have been able to convince, be they be health functionaries like the medical officer or the lady health visitor or the auxiliary nurse midwife, or even a traditional birth attendant who has a credibility with the community. So if you take them along, whatever you are saying also gets a credibility with the people with whom you have already established a rapport. After we have decided on whom to take with us for a particular aspect of nutrition and health education, then we must also decide upon when do we give this nutrition and health education. You see, people are not waiting for us to come and talk to them. It's not only their need to be told, but it is also our need to be telling them at a time when they are in a position to be comfortably available to get this information, to get the advantage of what you're trying to tell them. So if we go to them at a time when they are busy with their daily chores, they may not be interested in listening to you. So we have to find a mutually convenient time when we all can sit together with the community people, talk to them, and give them ideas into how they can translate our information into their daily practices. Then we would like to go into that where do we give this information? Venue is very important as far as nutrition and health education is concerned. For example, if you wish to talk about the importance of small family, it could be a public meeting anywhere where people can get together and talk about. But when we have to specifically address to the methods of family planning, contraception, then probably some people like to have some privacy. So maybe a home-based education or a home visit could be more appropriate, or sitting in a small group where we can have no inhibitions about asking questions, which may not be possible in a environment where others are listening on also. So depending upon the topic, we could also decide on the venue where we have to give this information. But very important aspect of nutrition and health education is the methodology. How do we go about giving this nutrition and health education? Nutrition and health education, you see, as we've just discussed, is a very tedious, time-consuming task, and people are not interested in it because they don't see the immediate results of it. So we have to make it more convincing. We have to have a supplement to our talk. We have to give support to the information that we are relating. So if we have to give support to our information, then we have to choose the methodology. And this methodology would depend upon whether we are just giving the information, or we are talking about bringing about a change in the attitudes, or bringing about a change in the practices. And this methodology would also depend upon the target audience that we have selected for nutrition and health education. For the target audience, we have two types of audience that we have for nutrition and health education. One, which is the directly affected group, that is the pregnant mothers, nursing mothers, vulnerable groups like small children, adolescent girls, besides the others. But these are the essential groups who have to incorporate these healthy habits. But at the outside, there is a very important group of people whom we have to give nutrition and health education, which I would normally call them as the earning and the governing members of the group. The earning members, that is those who bring in money, the heads of the household, they are the ones who have to be given nutrition and health education, because traditionally they are the ones who decide what has to be cooked in the household and how it has to be cooked. So unless until we give them the information as to the right kind of food, the right kind of health habits, the right kind of personal hygiene to be maintained, unless until they are the ones who are convinced, probably they may not encourage or support the vulnerable groups whom we are trying to address to. The second important group on the outside which influences these vulnerable groups or supports these vulnerable groups is the governing members of the family. These could be the mothers or the mothers-in-law or the other elder members in the household. They are the ones who have been traditionally telling the housewife, the mother, the daughter-in-law, daughter, or the small children what they should eat, what they should not eat, and why. So if we are able to target our nutrition and health education to these governing members of the family, they are the ones who would be able to provide support to the group to help them develop more nutrition and health oriented health habits. And when we are addressing to these governing members and the earning members, then probably our approach to nutrition and health education would be different. Just besides giving the information, we may like to get into a dialogue with them, because then if we are able to satisfy their whys and why nots, then probably they would be able to support the vulnerable groups like the pregnant mother, nursing mothers, into eating the right kind of food.
That was Ms. Deepthi Gulati talking about nutrition and health education. With this orientation, we are sure now you are better equipped to take on Course 3, which deals exclusively with aspects related to nutrition and health education. If you have gone through the material, you would realize that this course consists of 6 blocks. Block 1 focuses on community contact and participation. How to learn with and work with the community. How to establish community contact. How to help people help themselves. These issues are fundamental to nutrition and health education and are discussed in Block 1. As a community educator, you would like to have handy references of what to say to the community, what messages to convey to them. Block 2 will help you in this. It provides handy guidelines on messages, topic, areas, on different issues which you can take up with different population groups in the community. Using this information, you can prepare your own handy reference and use it when you are in the community. Now, just knowing about the problem, or for that matter, identifying the problem, knowing about the causative factors is just not sufficient. As a responsible person, it is very important that you educate the people so as to bring about a favorable change in their attitudes. And Block 3 will help you in this. It will help you develop communication skills. It presents methodologies, techniques in communication, which you can develop and use it in the community setting. Just knowing about communication skills is just not sufficient. It is also very important for you to orient yourself to strategies, approaches which you will adopt in the community setting. It is very important that you reach out to the community. For instance, can you involve women in the community to convey messages to other women or other population groups? Or can you use children as change agent? Give them simple messages related to nutrition and health and help them, or rather through them, convey these messages to their younger brother, sisters, family members and the community at large. Yes, all this is possible. These are the strategies used in nutrition and health education, which are emphasized in Block 4 and Block 5 of this course. Approaches, strategies which you can use in the community. Now, you have the communication skills, you have learned about the strategies, approaches. Well, you are ready to plan, implement your own nutrition health education program in the community. Remember, a successful or an effective nutrition health education program depends on effective planning. Preparing an action plan is very important. Block 6 will help you in this. It presents handy guidelines on different measures or steps you would take in planning, implementing a nutrition health education program. Having implemented your program, you would also like to know whether the program succeeded or not, for which evaluation is important. Block 6 also presents information on this regard. These 6 blocks of the course are a total package. The objective of this course is to help you develop communication skills, help you practice good methods, techniques, approaches, strategies in nutrition and health education, and overall help you become effective nutrition and health educators in the community.